Just in case you just joined us, we are on the very final lap of our conversation today. We are still staying with some conversation very, very important, something that a lot of us would look at or rather not pay enough attention to, or a lot of us have a few misconceptions about. It is a conversation around dyslexia. Yes, it is. Yes, I'll let you know why I was laughing a while ago. Dyslexia, Google tells you, it's a learning disorder that affects being able to read, write, and even speak. But we have in the house today, we have the Director of Dyslexia Nigeria, Olayide Odediran, to do some justice to the conversation. Now, whilst you caught me laughing, there was a singular fact that before the lights came up, we had agreed that we should sue some in data engine, for calling dyslexia a disorder, because she just said to me that it is neither a disorder or an impairment.
That's
Please
right.
let them understand what dyslexia really means.
Thank you. Dyslexia is a neurobiological learning difference. It's neurobiological because it's something you're born with, and it's a different way that the brain processes language-related information like reading, writing, and spelling. So it's really to do with the structure of the brain, and some people are just born with their brain wired that way. So it's not a disorder because there's not something wrong with them. It's just a different way of processing information. And it's not an impairment either. It's not something that you're deficient in. For example, some people have blue eyes or pointed noses, but that doesn't mean that their noses are impaired, if you understand what I mean. So it's a learning difference that primarily affects the way the brain processes language information like reading, writing, and spelling. And it comes with some strengths like creativity, 3D thinking, innovation, entrepreneurship, amongst some others.
Okay, so it comes with some struggles to be able to do the few things you mentioned: read, write, and even speak.
And spell.
Okay, read, write, and spell.
That's right.
But it is not a disability.
It's not a disability.
Yes. So we need to get people to understand, because there is a way around it.
That's right. Yes.
There's a way around it.
Yes.
Help us go through that.
Okay. So if an individual is processing language a certain way, it means there's a certain way also to teach them how to process that information. And so it requires some strategies, some teaching and learning strategies that allow the brain to absorb what it should. So that's really it. There are ways, but those ways are not ways that come with medicine. It's not a health issue. So you can't cure dyslexia, because the same way you can't change, your features that you're naturally born with. You can't cure dyslexia or change that you're dyslexic. But the challenges that it comes with can be overcome with the right identification and support.
So how much of support do we have within our clients in terms of how much understanding do we have as to the fact that this is a special kind of need that requires a special kind of attention, or a special kind of, attention is the word.
Yeah.
When you look at the Nigerian client, how well are we doing in this understanding?
That's a really good question. I mean, dyslexia is the most common learning difference in the whole world. So 1 in 5 individuals is on the dyslexic spectrum. For us, that's like 40 million Nigerians, or 1 in 5 children in a classroom of 25. So It's very, very common. And it has nothing to do with intelligence.
Sorry, before you go, yes, I was going to go there.
Yeah.
Because growing up in school, we used to have people they call in the Yoruba palace, Olodo.
Yeah.
Now, when you cannot spell, you're described as not being intelligent, and when you cannot read at a certain age, you're described as being a low learner, a slow learner, or not intelligent. So please speak to that for us. So it is not Olodo when a child at 7 really can't spell well, or can't read, or can't even write. It's just that the child just might need some special kind of attention to go through that process. It's important that our parents get to understand this, and our teachers also get to understand this. Yes, teachers, because I think that is where the whole problem lies. Getting to a place where a teacher understands that this is a dyslexic child that needs special attention.
Absolutely.
Do we have that?
Well, awareness about dyslexia is very low, and that's why we're really glad to have this conversation with you this morning. Awareness is extremely low. So teacher training, like you've identified, teachers are perhaps one of the first ports of call when it comes to identifying if a child is struggling with dyslexia, because learning to read typically begins in school. So teacher training is absolutely important, and being able to have the skills to identify a child that's showing signs of dyslexia and know what to do to support that child in the classroom. Teacher training is absolutely important.
All right, let's hear from my colleague in Abuja. And Ondana, the guest is waiting for you.
Yeah, Olayide, thanks to have, it's so good having you in the studio.
Thank you.
I need to quickly just go over this. I know David had asked you this question earlier, but I am still trying to figure out exactly how dyslexia is not a disorder. Okay. Now, I recall that a couple of years ago, I think 2-3 years ago, there was a video that trended, I don't know if you recall, where a man kept slapping his son. Yes. And berating him for not being able to spell. I mean, is this spell or now fail an exam? Yeah. I mean, the boy actually was quite grown, and that, of course, generated a lot of conversation on Twitter, so much so that even the popular activist Aisha Yesefu had to even come out and also speak on it, giving citing an example of her own child, one of her children, and all of that. So tell me how exactly it's not a disorder so that we can really understand this.
Okay, so thank you for that question. I remember that video, and I thank Aisha Yesufu also for speaking up. She's spoken with us too because her child one of her children is dyslexic. You know, it's not a disorder because a disorder implies that there is something wrong, something is broken that needs to be fixed. But that's not what dyslexia is. Dyslexia is there's a way that the brain is structured that allows it to process information in a different way. It's not that it cannot process the information. It's not that somebody who's dyslexic cannot learn to read, write, and spell. Many of them do. Agatha Christie, you know, everyone knows her for all her literature work. She was dyslexic. So an individual who is dyslexic can absolutely learn to read, write, and spell, but they might not be able to do that with the conventional way of teaching. And there's some certain strategies that you can put in place to teach an individual who has dyslexia how to read, write, and spell. Some of that, for example, might be multisensory teaching, you know, structured learning. It might be cumulative learning. It might be overlearning. You know, there's certain strategies. But once those are in place, once you identify it early, and you can put those in place and teach the child also how to learn the way their brain processes information, then it's no longer a limitation. And actually, you know, reading, writing, and spelling becomes something that they can deal with and they can do at grade level and then go on to achieve other things.
All right, so how do you identify the situation from home? Because from all that you've said so far and from the question David had asked earlier on about teachers, I'm thinking that it's only in schools that this sort of challenge could be, you know, noted. A person who is dyslexic could be noticed. But how does a parent identify that, look, or suspect that, okay, my child might have this problem or my ward mate might have this problem after all? What are the first symptoms?
Thank you. There are very many signs of dyslexia.
Or signs,
and
I guess.
Signs of dyslexia start to show from preschool, even before the point where you can absolutely diagnose a child for dyslexia at about 6 or 7 years old. Before then, you might be able to notice some signs. So there could be difficulty with, difficulty with learning their multiplication tables or learning nursery rhymes or dealing with rhyming words. It could be difficulty swapping their left and right, having directional confusion. It could be difficulty with vocabulary. So maybe they really enjoy being read to, but they don't like to spend time trying to learn to read. As they start to learn to read, it could be difficulty with what we call phonological awareness. Yeah. So they're having the difficulty associating the sound with the letter that's in front of them. So if they see perhaps C-A-T, that association of the sounds with K-A-T to read as a cat might be difficult for them to do, or to decode something or encode it. So I want to now spell this thing I'm thinking about that's a cat. How do I realize that that is CAT? And then how do I know that I can manipulate that, that I can take away the C and put an M? You know, spending time with kids at home, those things become obvious. They become obvious when they learn to spell their name or they're practicing their homework or something. Those signs really begin to show. And then they really show in school because the teacher is then obviously focused on those exercises at school. And as the child progresses, if the dyslexia signs are not identified and support is being introduced, they might then struggle with reading longer sentences, reading paragraphs, then remembering what they've read, understanding, doing comprehension, and then it can carry on. And the difficulty and challenge then with not picking it up early is when they now move from learning to read to having to read to learn other subjects, then you see a general struggle across school subjects. So then they start to struggle in chemistry, biology, you know, whatever other subjects they are, where they have to consume the information by themselves.
All right, so let's move on from there. The whole concept of dyslexia and special attention.
Yeah.
Do we have special schools? Should we have special schools for dyslexic children?
That's a great question. There are special schools. I know there are many special schools even in Lagos State, but dyslexia does not belong in a special school. Again, it's not a disorder. Neither is it a disability. There's nothing wrong with the person's ability to achieve those things. It's just a different way of teaching.
The challenge could be that the child might not move at the pace that other children are moving.
That's right, that's good. So in supporting a child with dyslexia, we have different tiers. So there's a tier 1 intervention, what you can do in a classroom with other children that allows to bridge that gap. And for some children on a certain part of the dyslexic spectrum, that's enough work to do in a classroom with other kids. You know, how you teach them also helps other kids as well. You can do that in classrooms. Beyond that, then you have a level 2. You can take them out for learning support. One-on-one time, one-on-one tuition can work. We don't need to take them out of the school system to a special school. Dyslexia exists throughout the society, in mainstream schools, in workplaces, in families, everywhere. It's just another way that the brain works.
So I think primarily is the fact that the teachers must be trained on how to deal with children that have that challenge. I'm going away from using the
that
word
learning style.
Yes, learning style.
Let's say.
You know, another concern that this could also bring about is the child might sometimes feel out of place among peers.
That's right.
How do teachers deal with this? Or how can the child? I mean, the child might not have any other option than to, you know, feel what's the word? Stigmatized or feel excluded.
Yes.
So how can we deal with this? Because that is not also very good for the child's learning.
Absolutely, you're absolutely correct. And the integrity of a child's confidence and self-worth is so important in what they can learn in school anywhere, actually. It all boils down to awareness. The more we know, the better we can be. Students themselves need to be made aware of dyslexia. We have school talks, school assemblies, kids' videos that explain what dyslexia is to all kids, so that if they notice that another child is having maybe these challenges, they are more empathetic and understanding and supportive. And kids, you know, kids really absorb what you teach and what you show and who you are, the way you behave. So having practices that are inclusive and that celebrate our neurodiversity is important to help everyone feel like there's something that we all bring, we're all of value, we're all worth something, and there's a part of the puzzle I bring that you don't, but it's together that we actually have something beautiful.
That sounds very, very beautiful. Let's have the phone lines open, just in case we are creating better understanding for you around the conversation of dyslexia, or you have something to talk about it. The phone lines are up there for you. Just call us. I'm sure she's ready to attend to whatever question you have. You want to throw at her this morning. Let's have this conversation. Trust me, growing up, we never knew this was a challenge. We just felt when a child does not run at the same pace as other children, then the child is not intelligent. I'm sure some of you still fall in that category. We're trying to disabuse that mentality and see the bigger picture. Now, for me, very key is the teachers, who is training the teachers. I think that is the most important part of this conversation. The teachers must be specially trained, in as much as we are not taking the children to special schools. But then there should be special trainings for teachers around the conversation, the dyslexia.
That's right, I agree with you. We run trainings on dyslexia, Dyslexia Nigeria with teachers. We have online trainings, in-person trainings. So it's easy for anyone really anywhere to be able to log on and access information about dyslexia. But also, I mean, we partner with organizations, we partner with the government, we partner with other schools, school associations to train more and more teachers about dyslexia. And this month being, you know, October Awareness Month, Dyslexia Awareness Month, we have some kind sponsors who have also sponsored several teachers, hundreds of teachers to be trained on dyslexia. So I do agree, and where can they go for training? They can come to us.
You take it off from there. Well, let's speak with Princess from Enugu right about now. Princess, good morning. Welcome to News Up. Speak to us, Princess. Hello, Princess. You still there? All right, I really can't hear Princess. If we have other callers, do let us know. Yes, you were talking about where they can go to for such special trainings, which is a very key to this conversation. Yes, speak to us.
Yeah, Dyslexia Nigeria runs several teacher trainings on how to identify dyslexia, understand dyslexia, support dyslexia, support children with dyslexia in reading, writing, and spelling, you know, and how to also build the esteem of a child with dyslexia. Like you mentioned earlier, one of the most significant things also for the individual.
All right, Anduna, just in case you have one or two questions, she's all yours right about now. Anduna.
Hey.
Okay, we have a caller. Right. Speak to us.
Hello.
So,
Good morning.
yeah,
Speak to us.
I need to
Good
also...
morning, sir. Good morning, my co-woman there.
Good morning.
I am so happy with this lecture this morning. It's quite impacted because just yesterday, a woman came to me because I run an NGO here in Enugu. And the son was misbehaving, the boy of 5 years,
Okay.
even though young, and she was hitting the boy. Yeah, I get where you're coming from, but the spiritual part of it, I handle them because some can be spiritually inclined as well. Yeah, when they cause a spell on their mother or father, it follows the children, it happens like that as well. So I follow such issues with prayers as well. So when she was beating this boy, then why are you beating this boy? Do you know whether it's from you? If it's in school, now you said it's just like beating them. What I'm trying to say here is this. I'm so happy this is going on right now. I will appreciate taking you to the grassroots, my dear. Children need a thorough attention. They need this love and pampering. It's not natural. At times they grew into it. So they need all the assistance they can get from parents and people around them. That's why it's not a disorder. It can be inherited, yeah, for one reason or the other. So take it far from where you are now, please, to the grassroots. Me, I will be doing mine here. I will appreciate other people can equally do it. People that doesn't have radio, people that doesn't have TV. God bless you and be good.
Thank you very much. Thank you so very much for that call. Let's keep the calls coming. Yes, Anduna, before she responds. Okay, yeah, maybe she just respond to her. You have any response to her?
Yes,
could it be a spiritual
there's
conversation? Is there a spiritual angle to this conversation?
I'm not a spiritual guru, unfortunately, but there's something she said that's very valuable, which is that dyslexia is inherited.
Yeah.
Yes, so it runs in families, and that's partly why it's also so common, running in 1 in 5, and you can have some children in the same family that are dyslexic, and you can have those that are not dyslexic. And if they didn't get it from you, they could have gotten it from your dad or your mom.
Your grandfather.
Oh, your grandfather,
yeah.
exactly, yeah.
All right, let's keep the calls coming. Anduna. You have a caller?
I want to lash onto what the last caller, the first caller said there about the spirituality and all of that. Yeah, so don't you think it's important that even religious leaders should have a sound knowledge of what dyslexia is? Because if a parent comes to a pastor or takes a child to an imam, with certain complaints, shouldn't that spiritual leader be able to say, look, this could be, I mean, you should be able to talk to so and so person so that this problem can be addressed? Don't you think that is important as well?
Absolutely 100% valuable, because as many people know about dyslexia, as many people then can help to identify it. And this is the reason why we also create awareness in churches. We were in a church only 2 weeks ago creating awareness about dyslexia, because everyone who's in church has somebody, knows somebody, works with somebody, teaches somebody that is dyslexic. It's also the reason why we have awareness in hospitals. You know, sometimes people go to doctors, you know, my child complains about headaches, they can't see clearly, they're not seeing, it's a bit blurry. And some of those are signs of dyslexia. You're absolutely right. As many of us are aware about what the concrete signs of dyslexia are, then we can help point people in the right direction.
All right. Anjana, you have any more questions for her? Let's keep the calls coming.
Yeah. I still have one more question, even as we beat to round up. So the question I wanted to ask earlier on is this: how do we get parents to that point where they are able to really focus on that child? I mean, as it stands right now, we have a society where father, mother are out there trying to, you know, make ends meet and provide for this child. And then giving a child extra attention could be a bit of a challenge or a burden. So how do we get parents to be able to create that balance between work, career, and also pay that level of attention to a child that has dyslexia?
Yeah.
Respond. Let's speak with Sunday from Edo State. Sunday, speak to us quickly. Good morning.
Oh, good morning.
Good morning.
I enjoyed the program. I think the lady there has spoke well, but the first speaker talk about heredity.
Caller, you
Yes,
mean?
we should know the cause. The cause of dyslexia. It can be caused by environment. Even poor teachers, like the own professional teacher in the school too, can still cause this. So you should speak more and enlighten the school environment and school management more about it to help the children. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sunday. Thank you for that contribution. Yes, you're going to respond to both Sunday and Anduna.
Wonderful questions. So I'll start with Sundays, which is really great. Perhaps takes me a bit more technical.
Yeah.
So dyslexia is inherited, and that means it's something you're born with. There's a certain chromosome that, you know, affects the way that brain is structured to process information. So in that instance, it's not environment that causes that. There's no environment that causes that you inherit a pointed nose from your father or curly hair from your mom. That's the genes that you have, and that runs in the families. But there is a small percentage of individuals with dyslexia that have something called acquired dyslexia.
Wow.
And that means that they're not born with dyslexia, but maybe they have an accident that impacts the part of the brain that processes language. And therefore they begin to have those struggles that they were not necessarily born with, but now they have acquired dyslexia.
All right, let's speak with Frank, then you can continue. Frank from Lagos. Frank, good morning.
Thank you very much.
Yes, Frank, 60 seconds.
Please, can we be available with her number so that we can reach her at the point in time we have contact with her, because we not anybody now.
Frank, I'm sorry, Frank. Oh, okay, you would need to reach out to Dr. Oye. Okay, fantastic. I'm sure she would probably let go, maybe our social media handle, how you can reach her just before she leaves the studios. Thank you so very much, Frank. Let's keep the calls coming. Yes, Andana did ask a question. I hope you can remember.
Yes, he was asking about how parents who are working can create the
can
time
manage,
to,
can navigate all of that.
I mean, honestly, that's a broad question about work-life balance that affects all of us. But really, there has to be a handshake between the school and the home. Both have two halves of the same child. You know, what is happening in school? How can we mirror that at home? How can we support that at home? What strategies are you using? How can we use them here? What resources are you using? How can we use them here? I tried this and it works. Why don't you try this too? You know, that conversation has to happen between the school and the home for there to be a bridge and to be a handing over so that there's a continuity for the child. that handing over and sharing of that information does not necessarily mean that the mom or dad is sitting there, especially if they can't be there. It may mean that their nanny has the resource and says, okay, every time they come home, do this with them, practice this with them. You know, can the teacher talk this person through it? This is the person that spends time with them in the afternoon. Can we do this? It's always a conversation about what is possible.
You know, earlier on the show, we had a conversation around palliative care.
Right.
So I think this is beginning to sound like that, where people just might need a community to get them through this challenge.
No one is an island.
No one is an island. So good to have you talk with us this morning on this very important conversation.
Thank you.
Doctor, we're looking forward to touching base with you again. Yes, Dr. Olayide, I hope I get that.
Olayide.
Olayide, yes, a fantastic conversation.
Thank you.
All right, Anduna, I think we have coasted real well. We have landed and anchored pretty well this morning.
Yeah, I mean, you're forgetting one thing, her social media handle, so that those who want to reach out to her?
Yes.
Yes, please. So find us on Instagram at Dyslexia Nigeria. That's DYSLEXIA, Dyslexia Nigeria. And you can visit our website, www.dyslexianigeria.com, for all our WhatsApp numbers and our other social media handles.
You want to take that again, maybe a bit slowly?
Yes, please. So reach us on Instagram at Dyslexia Nigeria, DYSLEXIA Nigeria, and our website, www.dyslexianigeria.com.
All right, I think that does it for all of us this morning on the show. Once again, it's a pleasure having you come talk to us.
Thank you so much for having me.